Hey guys, welcome back to part 5 of Project Wally, and in today's episode we're going to be focusing on the driver's side. We're going to try and cut out all the rusted and rotted metal, including the front and rear floor pans, and then we're going to try and get down to the torque box, which is the support that runs under the floors, and we're going to try and cut that out. They're notorious for rusting out, and mine's in pretty rough shape. So I'm going to try in this episode to get all that cut and prepped, and then hopefully even get the new torque box in. So let's hop in. So I'm about to cut the rocker, and I just wanted to show you guys how I just get a nice straight line. I just clamped a straight edge up there, and then I marked it with a Sharpie. I made sure to go up high enough where I could see that the metal was good on the inside, and I went far enough to where the metal is nice and clean over here, no rust. So now I'm just going to cut it with my cutoff tool. So I got the bad part of the rocker cut out. It had a couple spot welds here I had to drill out, or I could have just cut that all off, but I didn't really want to. But looking at it now, it's a little worse than I thought, so I might end up cutting it off anyway. So my next step will probably be cutting out in here. Like on the passenger side, I'm going to hang on to this piece of rocker that I cut out. That way I can trace out the patch pretty easily and get it pretty close to the right dimensions. I've got a good amount of this cut out now, so I can kind of see what's going on. I think I'm going to switch gears for a moment and undo the body mount bolts. That way I can probably start to get to replacing the torque box, because I want that in, and then I can start overlaying the metal on top of it. Two of the three body mounts actually came out extremely easy. This one, it started to come out, and then the metal that was actually holding the top of the kind of nut side down, it just all ripped off because it was so thin. So then I had to cut the head off so I could pull it up and through. The next thing that I'm going to have to do is go all through here on both sides of that support and drill out the little spot welds. And there are quite a few. I think there might be one that's under here. I know there's one on each side, and then it goes all the way up through the driver's side floorboard as well. It's gonna be kind of hard to find them all. I guess I'll just start with the ones I can see and then drill those out and start prying until I find the next one. So I'm not quite sure where we left off. I've been pretty busy the last few days. Some kid backed over my mailbox, so I had to dig that up and plant a new post in there. And then I'm also starting a new job, well, second job, so I've just been a little distracted setting that all up. What I'm planning on doing today is cutting out this floor pan and probably the front floor pan too. And that's mainly so I can get access to the torque box. I've drilled out most of the spot welds I need to. There's a couple under this that I can't really get to, so I might have to get creative when I cut that section out. But I want to get this off so I can get to the torque box easier and have most of it removed, and then I can just cut that little section in the middle there, and then I can put in the new torque box, and I'll have access from the top, and then I can get the floor pans in after the torque box. Not sure if I gave you guys a look at the torque box yet, but here's the patch panel piece for the torque box I got. It's probably 70-75% of the full length of the torque box, if not a little bit more. And it's nice, it's sturdy, it's got a good finish on it. It's got all the nuts pre-welded in there. On this side too. So yeah, that'll make my job a lot easier. I think there's only one nut that's on the back floor pan that I'm gonna have to tack weld to the bottom of the new floor pan. And yeah, it'll be pretty easy. One other thing I just wanted to note real quick is there's kind of another brace that goes like this down and around under the back floor pan, and it has some spot welds too. So I'm gonna try and not cut that, and I'm gonna try and drill out the spot welds like I'm doing. There's one here, and you can kind of see these little divots are the spot welds, and I finally bought some actual bits for drilling out spot welds, which is making this a lot easier. So yeah, so I'm gonna try and knock all these spot welds out, and then let me show you the brace. And when I cut this, I'm gonna try not to cut that out. If I do, then so be it. I'll live with it. But yeah, the plan is to not cut that out. I don't know if I can bend it down before I cut to try and keep me from cutting it. If not, it's not the end of the world. I was just trying to keep it there if I could. To do this, I'm just using a punch and a hammer, and I'm kind of center punching the middle of these spot welds to press like that and hold you in place, and then just give it some speed. Start going. It's a little harder to do with one hand, but I'll do it for you guys. And ta-da! So I've got the pan in here roughly fit up. There's still a little bit of adjustment I need to do. It wasn't a great fit. I had to cut a lot off the back. I had to cut this weird tab that was on there off. I cut a lot off the top here, but I left enough overhanging so it wasn't a big deal. I'm gonna have to like do some tack welds and then hammer it flat like I did on the other side as I go, but I think it'll work pretty good. One thing I want to show you is under here. You can see where your fuel, brake, and vacuum lines all go. That is like, I don't know, a quarter of an inch underneath where you're cutting. Now, I probably should have checked. I was just, you know, in a hurry, enjoying myself, getting this moving along. But I knew they went like this along the frame, and I was thinking they continued like that right here. So I got very lucky I did not cut these. I don't know, I usually account for my own personal error anyway, and I cut real shallow just to be safe. But yeah, I got pretty lucky I didn't nick any of those. Sorry for the noise, just that type of day where everyone's cutting their grass. But I have both floorboards cut out, so now I've got pretty good access to the torque box. So I'm cutting the torque box, I think it's right around here. I've got it marked underneath. But as you can see, it's real rusty in here. So I'm gonna clean all this out. Well, the section that I'm gonna keep, I'm gonna clean up and then paint with some of the rust converter. And then I'm gonna get this cut out. This section, it's from here all the way back is the patch panel. So I'm gonna get that cut out and then get the new one in, and I'm gonna weld those together. And then I'm gonna rust convert the front and clean it up. And then I'm gonna start doing the floor pans. So I've got the old torque box out, and as you can see, it's pretty bad shape. Just about to put the new one in. Take a quick look under the Jeep here. You can see I cut it right there, and I left myself a little overhang. I don't know, probably about an inch. I'm not sure exactly, I didn't measure it. So the new one is wide enough that it will actually cup over this, so you don't have to get it perfect to butt weld it. It will overlap. And then, yeah, so I've got it jacked up right here on the section of torque box that was left. I didn't go very high. It just, I just lifted it enough to be able to get the old torque box out and the new one in. I didn't even take off the rear body mount, and I also didn't loosen any of the ones on the other side. I just took out the 3 that are right here. I got this section of the torque box that's remaining from the old piece all painted up with the rust converter now, so that should help. I'll probably put a coat of the Steelit on top of that. I've also gone around and sprayed the rust converter on a lot of other sections just to get it on there. I'll probably have to sand some back off for when I do the welding, like around here, but I just wanted to get the rust converter on there and let it convert the rust. So now I'm going to make some patch panels because this is pretty thin right here. So I'm going to weld a piece on top of this. And then this section is all rusted out, so I'm going to make a little patch for here too, and I'm going to weld that in. And then once I get those welded in, I can put the torque box back in and weld that on, and then start doing the floors, and then make the missing sections for back here. So I've got those patches welded in there. My next step is going to be filling these holes I drilled. These were spot welds that were holding the torque box on. I don't want to leave those open holes up into the cab where this seat brace goes. The new torque box will cover them, but I still want to try and plug them with some welds, and I'm going to do my best just to fill the holes up. That way it won't let any water in. So now that I've built up these thick, ugly welds to plug the holes, I'm going to grind them down because this all needs to sit flat for the new torque box to lay right there. And then once I grind them down, I'll look for any new holes that I revealed and then fill that and repeat the process until they're totally plugged. So I went ahead and put the torque box in here, and then I marked where it overlapped on the old section. And then on the torque box, I marked the holes from up top that I'm going to spot weld, and then on the bottom I marked some spots I'm going to drill holes so I can spot weld from the bottom to weld it to the floor pan. And up here I took a wire wheel to get all the paint off where I'm going to be doing the spot welds. So now I'm going to spray it with the Steelit. I'm going to do the same down here, take a wire wheel to it, spray it with Steelit, and the same thing on the torque box where I need the paint off so I can get a good weld. So that's next step. So I've got the Steelit sprayed on here, and it's drying right now. I just sprayed it right here. I already did the torque box. It's out in the front yard drying. So now I'm going to set the rear floor pan in here, and then from the bottom, I'm going to mark all these holes onto the floor pan, and then I'm going to use a wire wheel to scrape those spots clean and get the paint off, and then I'm going to spray those with Steelit so I can spot weld that from the bottom. I've got all of those marked, so now I'll put the front floor pan in there and start marking those, and pretty much just giving the paint time to dry while I do this, and when the paint's dry, I'm ready to start welding in the torque box. There's my Rubicon Dana 44 axle delivery and my 241 transfer case. Bring them to me. Eric just took off, and look what I have. That there is a 241 transfer case out of a Rubicon. Time to upgrade my little 231. And what do we have over here? What's this? A couple Dana 44s with 410 gearing and front and back ARB air lockers? Ooh, and those are brand new air lockers too, less than a year old. Looky what we have here. Oh, and would you look at that? Some Clayton control arms, a full set. Well, I've got the other two. He just didn't have the rear uppers, and I bought those already and they're inside. So now I have a full set of adjustable Clayton control arms. I have two Dana 44s with better gearing. I've got 410 gears in these, and I have selectable lockers front and rear to go in my TJ, which, if you didn't know, all I had was a Dana 30 and the dreaded Dana 35 with 3.07 gearing, which is just terrible. My Jeep actually did decent with it, but it's a manual, that probably helped, but going up the mountains on my way to Colorado was a bit of a struggle. And then on the front, I have no adjustable control arms on the Jeep, and in the front, I had the Aussie lunchbox locker, and that was all this little guy had. So pretty bare bones. And then my transfer case is just the stock, 3-to-1 ratio in the 231. So now I have his 241 with a 4-to-1 ratio. And oh man, I am excited to get these on. And the big thing is now that I have 44s, I can ditch my 30 or my 35 and I can put on 35-inch tires, which I'm planning on doing. I've got all new rims for that too. Oh man, I am excited. I just have to finish this dreaded rust project that just snowballed. The rust was never my plan. I was never planning on doing this much. I didn't know it had this much. And this has just taken up a couple months now of my time, and it is exhausting. I have tons of parts in there that were my plan, just sitting in my house because I ran out of room in my garage because I had to tear the whole Jeep down. So I'm hoping to get this done within a week or two, be finished with that, and then I can start moving on to the actual upgrades. And boy, can I not wait to show you guys what this Jeep is going to look like when it's done. All right, it's time to weld the torque box in. The torque box is partially welded in now, so I can move underneath and start doing the spot welds that connect it to the floor pan. And these are all those holes I drilled for the spot welds, so now I can just start filling it with weld and connecting it to the floor pan. Alright guys, I think I'm going to go ahead and end this episode here. I've got the torque box all welded in, and I've got all the floor pans cut out. Everything's pretty much prepped and ready to go. So on the next episode, I'll weld in the new floor pans and see what else we can get done. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.